Welcome to the Fast Mode podcast series. I'm Tara Neil, and with me today is Gilles Garcia, Senior Director and Business Lead, Wired and Wireless Group at AMD. For more than 50 years, AMD has driven innovation in high-performance computing, graphics, and visualization technologies. Billions of people, leading Fortune 500 businesses, and cutting-edge scientific research institutions around the world rely on AMD technology daily to improve how they live, work, and play. Gilles joined Xilinx, the leader in FPGA-based adaptive computing solutions, in 2011 before its acquisition in 2022 by AMD, and has a vast experience of working with telcos and service providers. Gilles joins us today as part of our exclusive editorial segment on Open RAN. Welcome, Gilles. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for this invitation. Glad to be here today.
Okay, great. Okay, let's dive right in. For our listeners who are not familiar, let's have an introduction into this topic. So what is the role of network virtualization in Open RAN? And what similarities do vRAN and Open RAN architectures share?
So clearly, first of all, from a context, clearly we are seeing that network virtualization and Open RAN are getting more traction within the communication service providers or CSPs or telco operators. Those are the same names for the people. And so the goal and the objective is really to help building and upgrading faster and in a more efficient way their networks. And so clearly the customization is also an aspect that will help customers to apply to their networks when they are doing network virtualization or Open RAN. But there is a clear differentiation between the two. vRAN is just the virtualization of the software into a hardware. So it's almost a disaggregation of the hardware and the software. But this can still be deployed with a single vendor, wireless vendor. So still being a kind of locking to a single vendor, even when we are moving to vRAN. When Open RAN is clearly the disaggregation of the interface, having standard interface between hardware, mainly between the radio access networks, or the radio side, and the base stations, or the CU, central unit, distributed unit side of it. And that's what we call the open frontal between the DU, distributed unit, and the radio, which is the O-RAN interface. And the Open RAN in general is also when you are using the standard interface between the CU-DU, between the centralized unit and the distributed unit, and the CU-DU to the RIC, Radio Intelligent Controller, that are all defined by the O-RAN Alliance specifications and the 3GPP. So and then on the Open RAN, that's a multi-vendor environment, where you have different vendors for the hardware, the software, and different radio vendors as well that are talking to the CU-DU. So that's the main difference and the objectives of the two. But we are seeing, and I'm seeing vRAN as the first step to move to Open RAN. Because on the vRAN, as I mentioned, you are already disaggregating the hardware and the software on the DU and CU side. And so that's already a first step toward using different vendors. And so that's helping the telco and the CSP to have a different mindset, and so to be able and to be capable to jump into the clear Open RAN ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm. So in a way, it's good to start with virtualization, and then that sort of paves the way for operators to adopt Open RAN.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. Great. So, just to tap to your know-how in this area, are operators already there in terms of virtualization, or are they just starting on with that?
So vRAN and Open RAN, it's a journey. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so even though the industry would like to have all the operators and all the major operators and tier 2 operators in the developed regions and worldwide to already be vRAN deployed and Open RAN deployed, we are still at the beginning. So on the vRAN side, we have seen the main operators because vRAN was led by AT&T, by Dish, by Verizon. We have also some European operators and some India operators and Japanese operators that, like Rakuten, that already deployed vRAN. vRAN is not yet I would say the main deployed architecture for the DU/CU and the core networks. The 5G core networks is already mainly virtualized, but on the CU/DU, centralized unit, distributed unit, so what we called before the base station, we are not there yet as a complete deployment on vRAN. On the Open RAN, again, we have seen Dish, Rakuten, that has started from almost a greenfield, deploying Open RAN from the start. We have seen operators, again, AT&T with the large deal of Ericsson, and they are planning to announce new radio vendors that will make it really an Open RAN networks. Vodafone, Dutch Telecom has been also very vocal as Telefonica to move and to announce early deployment on the Open RAN. Japan with Rakuten, they have also moved to Open RAN, and some other pockets here and there. But we are still in the infancy or at the early stage of the deployment. Maturity is there from the ecosystem. So it's not a question of are we ready to deploy Open RAN or are the operators ready to deploy Open RAN? Is the ecosystem mature? Is there an ecosystem of radio vendors? Is there an ecosystem of CU/DU vendors? No, the ecosystem is there. It's probably more the telco and the operators that need now to make these ecosystem moving from the trials, lab trial, field trials, early deployment into mass deployment.
Wow, brilliant explanation. Well, okay, zooming into the role of AMD in particular, how does AMD's high performance computing and adaptive computing technologies contribute to enhancing performance and scalability in a virtualized RAN environment?
So the vRAN, as I mentioned, the vRAN and the Open RAN is the disaggregation between hardware and software. As a technology provider, AMD, we have been focusing quite a lot on the RAN market with our adaptive computing portfolio. Again, if you remember, Xilinx was acquired by AMD 2.5 years ago. Xilinx was and is the classic Xilinx is a leader on the radio, Open RAN radio side of it. And so that's how we are contributing to this Open RAN ecosystem. On the CU/DU technology, AMD as a CPU x86 provider has delivered some brilliant technology that we are now and we have been working with the Dell, HP, Supermicro, Lenovo of the world and other OEMs on the server side to deploy servers associated to this technology. And mainly we delivered a CPU called Siena that was really optimized from a power performance cost perspective from the telco environment, 5G core, CU/DU. And so we also have an accelerator to be able to cope with the complex RAN networks, that PCI Express card that we can plug into those servers, and that's making an Open RAN frontal with the radios from the different vendors, ecosystem Open RAN vendors that we are working with. So this is how we are contributing. We are, on top of providing the technology, we are providing reference designs to help the customer to do a jump start. Like the radio vendors, they can use our reference design to have a jump start on how to design and how they will then apply their differentiation in their radio design or accelerator design.
Yeah, you mentioned about the AMD's acquisition of Xilinx, 2 years back. So how has this acquisition sort of brought in new synergies? Like I'm sure that both companies had their different strengths in this area. So how has this merged portfolio further enhanced your joint offering?
So I'm coming from the classic Xilinx side. So I'm very excited by this acquisition. So that occurred, as I said, on February 14th, 2.5 years ago. So very excited because very complementary. AMD, the classic AMD was coming from the CPU server side of it. And so helping on the vRAN, so the disaggregation of the software and hardware. The classic AMD server CPU side of the house was very strong, working on the 5G core, so working with different software vendors, on the DUCU, working with different vendors. What the acquisition of Xilinx by AMD brought is probably a stronger portfolio end-to-end, including the radio technology and the acceleration technology. On top of that, the classic Xilinx and AMD working hand in hand increase, in fact, the relationship within the telco environment. Classic AMD was strong more coming from the data center side on the telco relationship. Classic Xilinx was very strong on the pure RAN, radio access networks side of it with the telco and operator relationship. And so that was very also complementary to being able to suddenly have joint calls, joint activities, joint reference designs, joint benchmarks with the different ecosystem and bring the ecosystem together. And now on the different events where we are going for the like Mobile World Congress, NetworkX, we are able to demonstrate end-to-end solutions with our technology and the ecosystem that we are working with. And so we are offering more choices to the operators to use the leadership technology portfolio that AMD and classic Xilinx are bringing, on top of the ecosystem, the vendors that we are working with that are bringing their own differentiation on top of the technology we are providing.
Interesting. Okay, so another news that we had from you guys this year was in February, Samsung Electronics, Vodafone, and AMD demonstrated the first end-to-end call over an Open RAN network. Can you share more details about this collaboration and what were some of the key outcomes?
So clearly, to put that back into the context, Vodafone, a little bit more than a year ago, announced that Samsung was selected as one of the Open RAN vendor that they selected for their Open RAN deployment. And so Samsung has been a very strong customer of AMD and classic Xilinx as well. And so what we have demonstrated is the Samsung software running into an AMD server connected to a radio and being able to have an end-to-end call with, of course, Vodafone being the operator using this technology. And so the things was to show the reality of the Open RAN into an operator networks like Vodafone, compared to only doing a demonstration into an event, which is a different, I would say, a different impact on the community, and definitely a different context from a constraint environmental and all the things being real deployed into a networks and being able to show that with our technology used on Samsung radios, used by the vRAN Samsung CUDU, was a clear differentiation for Vodafone.
That's very interesting. So will there be more announcements of such, or are you guys on new projects, leveraging the capabilities that Open RAN networks bring?
So we had already some other announcements, more on the radio side. On the 5G core side, we also had announcements in the past 2 years with the leaders on the 5G core software vendors. On the radio side, recently we had another announcement where Vodafone stated that they were using the AMD technology on the radio side to work on energy efficiency because our technology has already hooks into the devices that we're providing that allow to power down some of the ports, some of the RF to put on sleep mode, to wake up. And so the operators are very interested by exercising this technology. And so for a future deployment, so they can really being able to have a better OPEX control and reduce their OpEx in their networks. So that was one of the recent ones. Of course, we are working with others, but again, till those are public, I think that AMD prefer working closely with customers instead of making big announcements that are not making tomorrow's real deployment.
Wow, that sounds exciting. Is there anything else that you would like to share about the developments in this space, specifically Open RAN?
So, as I say, we are seeing Open RAN completely mature. We were at Fuse 2024, an event which is focused on Open RAN with the complete community, and a lot of use case, customer case studies were announced and were talked in public. So that's very exciting to see that now we are really in the phase of operators deploying, not yet at scale. Again, as I say, it's a journey, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And so we are confident as an industry that Open RAN will be deployed, but we should also be very careful. Open RAN will not take the world. In 2027, 2028, I would say the single vendor deployment will still be a very large majority of the deployment. If in the 2028, 2030, Open RAN reach 25, 30% of the deployment, that will be already a very big achievement for Open RAN. Because again, the market is very, very large, and 30% of a very, very large market is also a very large market that will help the ecosystem to live, to innovate, and to help to probably go further those 30%.
Amazing. I think, you're setting the right expectations as people explore all the possibilities that Open RAN will bring. And I think, we have come to the end of the session. So thank you, Gilles, for joining us and sharing your expertise on the exciting developments in this space, and also AMD's role, in the ecosystem. So any last words?
Again, I was happy to be here. Again, you can reach AMD for the people that will watch and listen this podcast. Again, happy to discuss more and to engage on your project. Thank you very much.
All right, great. Okay, so to our subscribers and listeners, thank you for tuning in. So if you guys want to learn more, visit www.amd.com and follow us for more updates and insights as we continue to uncover the latest in technology and telecommunications. See you in our next session.
Thank you all.